Every year in the late spring to early summer, a phenomenon occurs in the Gulf of Mexico that creates hostile conditions that contribute to what is commonly known as the dead zone. To gauge public perception, we asked a few of our fellow islanders what they know about ocean health and the dead zone.
In general, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think the health of our oceans are?
Oh, that'd definitely be a 10.
Okay, good to know.
I think it's a 10 because, I mean, we really get our oxygen from there. Like, majority of it is from the ocean, so.
Okay, I say like a 20 out of 10.
Okay.
I say 10.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico?
No, actually.
No, I have not.
Yes.
Yeah, you haven't.
My other passion is environmental science, so I volunteered with the aquarium in high school. But I know basically dead zone usually caused by overfishing or agricultural pollutants getting into the bay, and so all the fish die, and then they can't live there anymore.
So do you personally think that this is an issue of importance, and do you think it's worth our time and money to try to fix this problem?
Yes, because, fish is important to, their little area, so I'd say yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think anything to do to conserve the ocean, I think that it should be done because it's just getting ridiculous to the point where you see the Great Barrier Reef and things like that. It's just sad. It's I don't know. It just makes me sad because it's we should take care of our ocean more than what it is.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Hypoxia, or oxygen depletion, are conditions where the concentration of dissolved oxygen in the water column decreases to a level that can no longer support living aquatic organisms. To understand this phenomenon, we have to take a look at the root of the problem. Over 2,000 miles away from the Gulf of Mexico, we have the origin of the Mississippi River in Lake Itasca, Minnesota. As the largest watershed in North America, the Mississippi River Basin provides water to more than 50 cities and 18 million people. This equates to the drainage of approximately 40% of the United States by this system. The Mississippi River is one of the world's most important commercial waterways, which moves approximately 175 million tons of goods each year, generating billions in economic profit. Agricultural products from the Mississippi River Basin are valued at more than $50 billion annually and represents 92% of the nation's farm exports. Between urban, industrial, and agricultural practices, the primary sources of nutrients are produced from fertilizer and sewage. In May of 2016, U.S. Geological Survey estimated that 146,000 metric tons of nitrate and 20,800 metric tons of phosphorus flowed down the Mississippi and Atchafalaya rivers into the Gulf of Mexico. In addition to tons of sediment and freshwater introduced into the Gulf of Mexico from the Mississippi River, these excess nutrients can wreak havoc on marine ecosystems. While the Gulf relies on nutrients to stimulate marine life growth, too much of a good thing can be deadly. Here are how these conditions occur.
These fertilizers are not completely used by the crops. So then when there's rain, there's a storm, all these fertilizers get washed off into the streams and river channels so that they can carry it by the river and emptied into the coastal Louisiana region. So then when this fertilizer, they stimulate the plant growth on land, they do the same thing for the phytoplankton, which is basically plant too. So then when the intense production of the phytoplankton happens, on one hand, there is support abundant phytoplankton production which sustain fishery. That's one thing, but then on the other hand, when there's phytoplankton, they die or they get eaten by the zooplankton. So zooplankton will expel the fecal pellets. All this organic material sink into the bottom, and so it'll enhance the microbial respiration. Okay, so that's one. Respiration is one factor. The other thing is when you have a lot of fresh water coming out of the river mouth, it basically produces light, low density cap, so that it's spread on top of the salty ocean water. And when, typically in northern Gulf of Mexico in the summer, it's pretty calm, not much wind. If you go out there, it basically looks like a lake. And so this combination of factors, the physical barrier, the fresh water lands on top of the salt water, and then this intense subsurface respiration produces this hypoxia event. That's pretty often, every year you see more or less it's there.
As our populations steadily increase, so do the quantities of crops required to sustain our populations. However, there are ways to lessen our impact on our environment and the communities we live in. By restoring wetlands along the Mississippi River watershed, we can combat the dead zone without affecting farming practices. Wetland plants use the nutrients from fertilizers just like crops and phytoplankton. Wetlands act as a natural filter when placed near farmland runoff areas by absorbing much of the excess nutrients from fertilizer. This in turn prevents more pollutants from reaching the Gulf of Mexico. Wetland reserve easements, part of the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, provides compensation and technical support to farmers who restore or convert portions of their land to wetlands. These programs allow farmers to prevent harmful runoff from entering the environment by covering the cost of creating and maintaining wetlands. Other actions agriculturists can take include reducing fertilizer application, reduction of land tillage, and managing livestock waste. There are currently decision support tools in production for a nationwide runoff risk advisory system that will assist farmers in choosing optimal times to apply fertilizers to their crops. With the watershed spanning many states, people, and cultures, it is imperative that efforts and collaborative actions take place across a large scale to include local organizations and nonprofits, state agencies, and federal government. There are a number of groups and initiatives with goals of reducing, mitigating, and controlling hypoxia in the northern Gulf of Mexico. As watersheds are urbanized, much of the vegetation is replaced by impervious surfaces, reducing the area where infiltration to groundwater can occur. Thus, more stormwater runoff occurs that can be carried directly to streams and drained into coastal waters and affect wildlife that is of economic importance.
Sustainable management of our nation's fisheries opens up economic opportunities to Americans along the supply chain, from buying bait at a local marina to enjoying a seafood dinner. In 2015, the U.S. commercial fishing and seafood industry, including imports, generated $144 billion in sales and supported 1.2 million jobs, while saltwater angling generated $63 billion in sales across the economy. People all over the country benefit from Gulf seafood. From sport fishing to scuba diving, the tourism industry in the Gulf of Mexico may also be affected by the dead zone as it continues to grow in size. This year, the hypoxic zone in the Gulf of Mexico is the largest ever, measured at 8,776 square miles. This is approximately the size of New Jersey. Here are some ways you can help reduce your impact at home. Use environmentally friendly landscaping techniques that require less fertilizer, prevent erosion, and use native plants. Using a soil test kit will help you determine the amount of fertilizer that you actually need. Conserve water at home to reduce the volume of wastewater that must be treated by a sewage treatment plant or septic system. Use safe, non-toxic alternatives for cleaning and for controlling pests. Always take your household and lawn chemicals to a recycling center, not in the trash or down your drain. Use soap sparingly and try to use non-phosphate detergents. Even if you live in the Midwest, small changes you make in your everyday life can impact the Gulf of Mexico in a positive way. No matter where you live, by doing your part and encouraging others to do the same, we can make a difference. Remember, there is always someone downstream with you.